Everyone please rise. Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Seattle number 4. I'm Beth Knox, your club president. As we convene today, we respectfully acknowledge that we do so on unceded Coast Salish land, specifically the ancestral land of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot tribes. We acknowledge and pay respect to the first peoples who gathered here, to elders past and present, and to all Indigenous peoples. I wanted to share the news that our dear friend and fellow Seattle 4 Rotarian, Todd Sommerfeld, passed away yesterday. After a year and a half of living, in his words, a mostly normal and joyful life with cancer and chemo. He was surrounded by family, and I've been told his grace, kindness, and humor was present to the end. At next week's meeting, Kim Moore will offer a celebration of Todd's life, and the Rotary Rogues will perform in his honor. Todd's wife, Jane, is finalizing plans for his memorial service, and we hope to announce those details next week as well. Todd was a light to so many, and we hope to, he was a light to so many, and may his light shine ever brighter in his eternal home. Please join me in a moment of silence for Todd. This has been an emotional week also in the world of sports. Last week, Serena Williams played her final U.S. Open, and last night, four-time champion, 13-time All-Star, and future Hall of Famer Sue Bird played her final game with the Seattle Storm, a game that they lost. Lots of emotion watching one of the greatest athletes in league history wrap up her career. In fact, I am wearing a greatest of all time GOAT t-shirt here in Sue's honor. On a brighter note, last night the Mariners beat the Chicago White Sox and are tied for first in the wild card standings. In fact, the team is taking the field at T-Mobile Park as we speak. Here to transport us to the ballpark through song is our Mariner fan, Admiral Bill Center, and accompanied by Freeman Fong. Thank you.
Thanks, President Beth. I was a little concerned following up that sad announcement with the cheerful song, but I remembered that I never heard Todd sing a sad song. And if I told him that we were going to follow up this announcement with "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," he probably would have said something like, "Well, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a great choice." So, play ball. Anyone who knows my wife, Carla, knows that she's a huge Mariners fan. I often tell folks morale around our place during baseball season is directly correlated to how well the M's are playing. And right now, it's pretty darn good. It's been so long, I'd almost forgotten how much fun summer is when your team is winning. Even non-fans are aware of the seventh inning stretch, which traces back to 1710. Oh, wow, that would be interesting. 1910, when President Taft threw out the opening day first pitch. He too was a huge fan in more ways than one. As the game wore on, the 6'2", 300-pound president grew increasingly uncomfortable in his small seat. By the middle of the seventh inning, he could no longer bear the pain and stood up to stretch his legs. Out of respect, his fellow spectators followed suit. Minutes later, he returned to his seat. The game resumed, and the seventh inning stretch was born. True? Who knows? But I did read it on the internet, and it's a pretty good story. Nowadays, we mark the seventh inning stretch by singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," written in 1908 by lyricist Jack Norwood, on a piece of scrap paper while riding a subway. Legendary Chicago announcer Harry Carey popularized singing the chorus during his tenure with the White Sox and the Cubs. First pitch of today's game is in about 30 minutes. Let's sing so loud, they'll hear us all the way down at T-Mobile. Take me out to the ball Okay. Seventh inning stretch is over. Please be seated.
Thank you, Bill and Freeman, for setting the stage for our meeting today. Thanks also to our meeting reporter for the day, Pete Delani, classification retired marketing and public relations. We appreciate the summary that our reporters submit each week for Friday's club newsletter. And we have several guests who have joined us today. We have prospective members, Kushali Kanakia, if you could please stand, and Evan Franulovic. Welcome. We have an international visitor today, Franco Del Rosario, Rotary Club of Makati, west of the Philippines. Welcome, Franco. And we have a guest of member Rachel Smith. Amy O'Donnell is here. Amy, can you please stand? Welcome. And from Issachar Rotary, we have Dan Nystrom. Dan, welcome. And we have a couple guests of our main speaker today, Brad Good and Christy Ellison. Welcome. All right, next up, your VP of Membership, John Steckler and Nicole Klein, will provide updates on membership engagement and empowerment, after which John will remain at the podium to share another member spotlight. Please welcome John and Nicole.
Okay. Next slide, please, because I have to read it. So, thank you. This is Nicole up here, and I love doing this with John, but he's the funny one, so we'll get to that. But haha. So we wanted to check in with you guys and inspire you because you remember the mailing we did. It came to your home. You got the 2 things in the mail that you carry in your wallet or your purse. We're wondering if you guys have been giving those away. And we have some proof on the screen of those who have already used those cards, and we want to thank them and hopefully inspire you to do the same. We have Sue Beller, John Bridge, Jimmy Collins, Kurt Green, and Jaime Mendez, and then special recognition is Sue McNabb. Are you here, Sue? Where did she go? No. Well, she gets the special one because she used both cards, right? So is anyone else thinking that they're ready to use the cards? I hope. Okay, thank you. Well, Beth, who would want Beth's card? Okay, thank you. Mine are in my car, so they need to move into my wallet. So I encourage you guys to use those because remember we have that special offer too with the women who join before October. They get to go to that special event in Tacoma. So anyway, John?
So the really cool part about that was Sue, she used the free lunch and she got her guests to join and waive their initiation fee. So Sue brought us in the first new member to join our club under the empowerment. That's what's really cool about that. 1 down and about 100 to go? We're on our way, folks. We're on our way. Please use your empowerment cards. Everyone's got a friend that should join Rotary. Every one of you. Here in the room and on the Zoom. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We're talking about new members. How about our existing members? Let's have some Rotary membership engagement. We've got a full list of engagement activities for you in the month of September. Here are just the dates. I'll tell you a little bit more about them. They start in the month of September tonight, September 7th. The YRL, the Young Rotary Leaders, is having a happy hour at the Eastlake Bar and Grill tonight at 5:30. This place is located on Eastlake, works with the name. You don't have to be a YRL to attend. You could be an ORL. You could be an old Rotary leader like myself. You could go. We want everybody to go.
And they're tearing it down.
And they're tearing it down? Oh, go now, go tonight before it gets torn down. Sit on that deck, enjoy the sun, and have a little fellowship. On Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m., our very dear Rotarian Fedva Dickman is going to be hosting another one of her fantastic ethnic dinners. This one's at Ada's Restaurant. She's going to guide us through a multi-course Turkish dinner. These are always a lot of fun. You've got to get onto and sign up for that. All of these are on your totem, so don't worry about that. I just want to tell you about them. On Tuesday, September 20th, hey, many of you have requested a true mixer of chance to exchange business cards. Well, my partner in crime has put one of those together for you. You want to tell them about it?
Okay, well, I picked it up from a dating activity that I did long ago in San Francisco, where speed dating, I was supposed to try and find a whistle, but basically you rotate, thank you, tables every 4 minutes, and you have a card in front of you, and you're trying to match with someone. But we're going to take away, finding your future partner, but instead give you some questions to sort of hit on in a very short amount of time and see what you can remember at the end and see if you make a connection that you can follow up with. So we'll give you tips too, but we need about 20 at least to make it really fun. So we need you to sign up, and it takes all levels. We need people that have been in the business for a while and new, so please sign up. Okay.
This is a chance. Bring your business cards. This is a networking event, okay? That's what you want. We're going to put it together for you. On Thursday, September 22nd, C4s, the new member group, is having a happy hour at Mary Johnston's Scenic Rooftop, a great area, and you don't have to be a new member. Do you know an old member like myself could go to that? So please, new and old are welcome to attend. And on Sunday, September 25th, this is really cool. It's unique. It's weird. I thought it was weird. It's a garden party at Einar Handelin's house. He is a dahlia fanatic. This man and his wife, Marilyn, have a stunning garden with over 700 dahlia plants, 160 different varieties. So they had this dahlia event last year. My wife and I went. It was fantastic. They had tea and appetizers and wine, which I was happy about. You know what? This is a great afternoon event. It's from 3 to 5. Please attend this. If you've gone last year, you can come again. If you haven't gone last year, Einar will actually give you little starts to start your own dahlia field. My wife took 10 of them, and we now have a field of dahlias on the side of our yard. So this is a great fellowship event. Bring your spouse, bring a friend. Hey, better yet, why don't you bring a prospective member to something like this, okay? Let's grow our membership. So a lot of great activities for you. We've got more coming in October. Let's continue to grow our club and engage our club. So thank you very much, everybody. Uh-oh, you thought you were done with me, but you're not. I get to roll right into my next activity. This is really weird. I've never done a back-to-back on this podium. I hopefully never will have to again. But we're going to roll right into the monthly Rotary Spotlight of the Month. We're ready to do our September Spotlight. So, my fellow Rotarians and honored guests, I first started delivering these Rotary Spotlights to myself when I first started this. I made a pledge. I was going to focus more on the individual as a person than on what they do for a living, But for the Rotary Spotlight Member of the Month for September, I'm gonna have to make an exception. Her career is so fascinating, I just have to share it. I hope you'll agree. Let me tell you. Our Rotary Spotlight Member of the Month for September 2022 is Mary Wagner, classification food and beverage. Thank you. Yeah. Mary is what we classify as an achiever level, as she's been a Seattle 4 Rotarian for less than 4 years. But hey, don't let that fact fool you. Although she's been a Rotarian for less than 5 years, her career has spanned decades and includes numerous industries. But first, let's get to the important information here. Let's see. Mary was, look at that cute little thing. Mary was born in Duluth, Minnesota. She has an older brother named Bob and a younger sister named Liz. Mary's father, Art, worked as a casket salesman, a part-time mortician, and for as long as Mary could remember, she saw this as a dying industry. Rotarians step up, but it just takes them a little bit longer to catch a joke. Her mother, Marie, was a grade school teacher. Although she loved growing up in Minnesota, Duluth was tough, especially in the winters, where it could get as cold as 50 degrees below zero. 50 degrees below zero. But the good news is that was rare. Most of the time in the winter, it was a balmy 25 degrees below zero. In high school, Mary, she excelled, in science, other fields, but she was even the captain of the cheerleading squad. It was a little different in Duluth because the cheerleaders cheered on ice skates. That's because everything was freaking frozen in Duluth. But it was a very different world. After high school, Mary decided she wanted to change a venue for college. She decided she wanted to go to school far away. So she packed her bags and she moved all the way to Iowa State to attend college. She excelled and graduated with a degree in bacteriology. One professor was so impressed, he offered her a job if she would stay and pursue her master's. So Mary stayed, got her master's in food technology. Now, at this point, I had to ask Mary, why food technology? Well, Mary said, it involves all the senses. It even brings in some marketing. It engaged all levels of Mary's mind. Now she combined science with the ability to connect with people. She was so engaged, she made the decision to move back to Minneapolis to get her PhD in food science at the University of Minnesota. That took another 4 years, all told. Mary has spent 10 years in academia studying the science of food. Now, Mary was a professor in her first job after college, but it was not long before she was snatched up by General Mills in what was to become a long and rewarding relationship. First, Mary put on her little white lab coat, went to work in the quality division. Her job was to create a biotech program by growing protein from mushrooms in liquid culture. Then they would later transfer that into cereals and cookies. Yeah, didn't you ever wonder where that protein content came from in the side label? You think there was actually protein that came from cereal and cookies? They injected that. Next, she moved up to the Hamburger Helper and Tuna Helper division. That product was successful, but now they wanted Mary and her team to come up with additional product extensions, and they did. Many very successful ones, including the highly successful hamburger lasagna. Now, you know you've really made it at General Mills when they move you up to the next division. Mary was moved up to lead the product development for Betty Crocker desserts. This was the era of the light dessert. Mary led the charge to meet this demand, but her greatest success was through the creation of the party cakes. They weren't light, no. But they had sprinkles, and America loved the sprinkles. And now came a pivotal point in Mary's life. General Mills sent her to Harvard for an accelerated MBA program. And when she returned, she was put in charge of a new internal business-to-business unit within General Mills that sold analytical services within General Mills, as well as to outside businesses, including competitors. The scientist was now becoming a business leader as well. Now, Mary had been working very hard, and she'd been very focused on her work. It was time to focus on her personal life. And this is 1991. The internet, well, dating sites, they were just a thought in many startups' minds, but there was video dating services, such as, remember Great Expectations? They used a highly sophisticated algorithm to match signals. Yeah, remember? Seriously, you had to watch VHS tapes and things. Well, this is 1991, and Mary gave it a shot. She was matched up with a guy named Richard, who was working in marketing at an insurance company. Well, the algorithm worked. They clicked. But unfortunately, Mary got transferred to the Gorton's Fish Division in Boston to head up both product development and quality control. But that didn't stop Richard or the romance. He proposed, they got married, and this year they will celebrate 30 years of marriage. Wow. For the first 2 years of the marriage, Richard lived in Minnesota and commuted to Boston every other week, and Mary spent 5 years at Gorton's, implementing many successful programs and growing the customer base, which with such customers as McDonald's, the fish fillet sandwich, to say the least. Ooh. Then she got recruited to Taco Bell, seen here with her new best bud. Yes, Yo quiero Taco Bell, that's him, yeah. Her new best bud. That led them both to LA. Now, Mary had just started at Taco Bell when she got word from the adoption agency in Boston. They had been approved to adopt a 1-year-old baby girl from China that they named Nora. Today, Nora is 24 years old. She works in West Hollywood for PR in a talent agency. At Taco Bell, well, Mary created the chalupa, the grilled stuffed burrito. She handled all the crisis management for Taco Bell's corn GMO challenge, which we won't go into today, not over lunch, no. Next came recruitment to Gallow wines in Modesto. And just like Taco Bell, a new job means approval for a new adoption. The family welcomed another 1-year-old baby from China they named Emma. And today Emma is 20 years old, attending college at Western Washington University. Now, Gallow was Mary's first experience with a private company, and she loved it. She learned to understand the market and the customer base better to meet their needs with the right wine. Styling wines was the most flexible product line she'd worked with. And after 7 years, Mary left to work for Frank Mars at Mars Candy. She was hired as the chief scientist and general manager to create a healthy cocoa supplement line of products. Healthy cocoa supplements keep your arteries flexible. I didn't know that. Her job was to isolate those cocoa, I believe it's pronounced flavonols, so they could be incorporated into not only human products, but pet foods as well. Didn't know that about Mars, did you? Mm-hmm. Well, in 2010, she met a man by the name of Howard Schultz, approached her and offered her the global R&D quality job for Starbucks. Wow. It's an opportunity you don't say no to. So the family stayed on the East Coast for the girls' school, and Mary commuted to Seattle for the next 5 years. And during this time, she delved into the coffee business, learning everything from sorting beans to contributing to many innovations, changing the cup to make it more recyclable. She created the Nitro Cold Brew, the Cake Pops, and my greatest favorite, Egg Bites. I love the Egg Bites. Oh my God, that was a great one, and many, many more. In 2015, when Nora went off to college, Richard and Emma joined Mary in Seattle, and the family settled on Mercer Island. In 2018, Mary decided it was time to retire from full-time and spend more time with Richard and Emma. It was also in 2018 that two of her friends, Lauren Domino and Jerry Lynn Brousseau, introduced and sponsored her into Rotary. Oh, Mary has been very active with our scholarship committee. She really enjoys going to the membership engagement activities. And Mary is also an active board member with a number of firms, such as Blue Nalu, a seafood growth company from Cell Cultures, Premium Brands Holding Company, investment company acquiring and building food businesses, Skagit Valley Malting, malts and hops for the craft brewing and sports industries, and Griffith Foods, a company that delves and delivers innovative seasoning blends to many companies. Looks like she's putting her experience to work. Today, Mary's impact and legacy in business is only overshadowed by her greatest and most valued life impact, her family, Richard and the girls. As you can see, Mary Wagner is not someone who can be described by a particular industry background, as she has worked in so many different ones. But what she will tell you is constant across all of her industries is food science. That is why Mary made the career decision she did back in college. Fellow Rotarians, I give you our Rotary Spotlight Member of the Month for September. Mary, please stand. Mary Wagner, classification, food and beverage.
Thank you, John, for that fantastic member spotlight. Mary, you are an inspiration, and we're so grateful to have you as a member of Seattle Rotary. John and Nicole, you both are great examples of Rotarians stepping up. Thank you for your leadership as well. I also want to recognize those who have responded to my email message requesting volunteers to monitor our online portion of our weekly meetings. Rotary meetings have many moving parts, as you might imagine, and introducing the Zoom component back in 2020 added to the complexity. Having one or two people each week who serve as meeting co-hosts online to help ensure a better experience for both the in-person meeting and those attending virtually. So I'm recruiting 5 to 7 people to serve on our new tech committee and take turns managing the Zoom call for those online. I'd like to thank Marcia Matusi for stepping up to open our call this week. Marcia, thank you so much for doing that. You're awesome. And also to Matt Lemaster and new member Brad Barber for offering to serve on the committee. If you're willing to help out on this committee so we can rotate the responsibilities, please send me an email or come see me after the meeting. Now we will move on to our main program, after which we will have time for question and answers. Here at the Westin, we will have roving microphone handler Lisa, while VP of Programs Ken Grant will monitor the Zoom chat for questions. Now, here to introduce our guest speaker is Ken Grant himself. Ken.
Apparently, I am no longer the Prince of Programs. That was a short-lived little episode, wasn't it? Welcome, everybody. I am curious here with a show of hands, who has a bank account? Sometimes you got to throw out a low ball. I'm a big fan of not only the gentleman that's going to speak next, because I've seen him speak and I think he's a freaking rock star. Oh, make sure you get this side. This is my good side. But also a big fan of the bank Wafd, going back to when it used to be something else and was some other name before that. So I want to tell a quick anecdote instead of saying that he's a good guy and he's been around for blah, 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 blah. I live in Edmonds, as all of you know, because I'm obnoxious about it. And I had a company a couple of years ago that was all mine, and I needed a bank, and I walked into the Wafd branch in Edmonds, and I never left. They were the most incredible people. On my worst day, they would pep me up and make me feel good, and I'm thinking, these aren't bankers, these are friends. And then a few years ago, my 17-year-old, on her 15th birthday, I'm like, honey, we're going to need to go get your bank account. Okay. I mean, I don't know how many 15-year-olds have a bank account, but mine does. Walked down there, was one of the most special times, literally, of my entire life with her, watching her sit with the banker, open up this account. She had $555 or something, and she was doing the whole transaction and signing everything, and I stood back just taking photos because that's exactly what I do. And it was such a monumental moment to watch one of our little kids go through that and get their own bank account. And then when my littlest one did it, I guess they were 14, when my littlest one did it, we did it last year, she was turning 14, took it back down the bank, just by herself, did the whole thing, big beaming smile, couldn't have felt more proud. And now they just keep on putting more money into it. My 14-year-old last week got a job. She's like, what do I do with the money? I'm like, you're going to put it straight into the bank. Straight into the bank. She goes, what about the first check? I'm like, well, maybe we can do money for that or a check because that we can be proud. After that, it's going straight into the bank. And the 17-year-old last Friday put $1,035 into the bank. That, to me, says a lot about our speaker, Brent Beardall. It says a lot about the bank, and it says a lot about the power of the branch. So for that, I am incredibly grateful. Here we go.
Well, happy Wednesday. Kind of feels like a Monday, doesn't it? Still recovering from that weekend. What an honor to be here. It honestly feels like I'm among friends. So what an honor, what an opportunity. Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to throw away my normal bio and just give that to everybody. I honestly believe, and you'll hear this throughout my speech, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Why am I the luckiest guy in the world? Because what I get to do, it's spectacular. Right? Banking is fundamental to the American dream. During the Great Recession, banks got a terrible name because there were a lot of banks that made a lot of mistakes. But banking done right is foundational to what we do in our society. You save money. And then after you save money, you have that money to spend. And those that are net savers lend that money to others. Leverage done right is a beautiful thing. Leverage done wrong is Lehman Brothers, which is a terrible thing. But there is a beautiful symmetry that comes with banking. And I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And to be able to represent the roughly 2,100 employees that make up Washington Federal Bank, Wafd Bank, including our wonderful employees in Edmonds. And I've challenged every employee at the bank. When I took over in 2017, I wrote a letter to every 2,100 employees. And I thought it'd be a great idea to sign those letters by hand. That was a mistake. 2,100, Brad's like, Brent, just print them off. No, don't do that. Let's write notes. Say, hey, Fred, thanks for all you do. I appreciate it. How's your family? That project that I thought was going to take about a small portion of an afternoon took 3 days. But what I did is I asked every employee to do two things. And I think that's why I'm happy to be here in your midst. Because this is an organization about service. It's about finding yourself and serving others. And I believe the same thing is true when you work in a place that you love. And so I've challenged everyone at the bank to do two things. Number one, love what you do. Be passionate about it. Not every job we have at the bank is glamorous. Collecting on delinquent loans isn't so glamorous. Working in the file room is not so glamorous. But figure out a way to love what you do. Be passionate about it. Find a way to help others as you're collecting on their loans, to get them in the right product, to help them move forward. And after you figure out how to love what you do, and believe me, you will notice, your family will notice, your coworkers will notice, most importantly, your clients will notice. Make a difference. Be part of the solution. Never just come with a problem. What's wrong here? We'd be here all day if we listed what the problems were in Seattle, the problems in our society. But what are we going to do about it? What are the solutions we can bring to bear? Make a difference, be part of the solution. So we have a lot in common with the Rotary, and it's an honor to be here with you. A little bit about our heritage. We started in 1917 in Ballard. Believe it or not, that was our first branch location on Market Street in Ballard, Washington. You can't recognize that today. Right? Those are the two Keene brothers, and I assume those are their wives. I don't know that for certain. But what I love is, look at that. That is our first balance sheet of the bank. Going back to May 1st, 1917, you can see $45,000 in total assets. Here's a quick lesson in the power of compounding, the power of inflation. If you inflation adjust $45,000 in 1917, any ideas what that's worth today? Shout out a number. Anybody? 100 million. Couple hundred million. The answer, $1.1 billion. He held on to it. He didn't say it right. That's crazy. Today, Wafd Bank, which is the largest bank headquartered in the state of Washington, has $20 billion in assets. Right? But we still try to operate like the bank that the Keene brothers established, which was for the good of the community. That banking done right is foundational to a community that thrives. In the last 105 years since we've been around, I'm only the 6th CEO, and I've been with the bank for 21 years. All I have to do is make it to 2037 not to take down the average. Brad already has a bet for the under. But we believe in consistency. I also want to acknowledge, looking at this slide, that we believe that the future is not just white males. Right? We are working hard on our diversity. Our workforce is predominantly female and has a great mix of cultures. Today, our chairman of our board is Stephen Graham, African-American male attorney, Yale educated. And the diversity on our board is over 40%. So just because our history is white male, and I respect every one of these, we want to embrace who we are as a community. But I believe in consistency. Consistency over time matters. People need to know what they can count on. And that's what Wafd is all about, doing the right thing. And in today's discussion with you, I want to talk a little bit about doing the right thing, having values, sticking to those values, but yet at the same time changing. How can you take a 105-year-old bank and make sure it's relevant 10, 20, 30 years from now? And my answer to that is you have to embrace change, but you also have to embrace your values and know what matters. And your values are what matter. How you go about doing what you do, that's going to change. But what can't change is your values. Does anybody here remember a thrift that started in 1920 called Washington Mutual? Let me compare and contrast for you Washington Mutual and Washington Federal. And I actually have a lot of respect for the folks at Washington Mutual, and I've gotten to be good friends with Kerry Killinger. Here are two charts demonstrating the stock prices of the two organizations. Wafd Bank, who I have the good fortune of working for, went public on November 9th, 1982. And you can see our chart down below. And the green line is the stock price over time. Stock price has generally gone up nicely over time. But there is volatility in that. Up above the chart, you see Washington Mutual stock price. And they went public just after us, about 1983. And their stock price went from a buck or so all the way up to $47. And then in 2008, everybody remembers that they failed, the largest failure in U.S. banking history. over $60 billion of value was wiped away. It's stunning to think about it. It's one thing to think about the numbers, $60 billion of value wiped away. More importantly to me, think about the lives that were impacted. Think about the hundreds of thousands of employees and their families. Think about the clients that were put in jeopardy. I believe that as corporate leaders, as community leaders, we have a responsibility. That responsibility includes the bottom line, but it also includes being a fiduciary for those that entrust their time and their assets to you. I show this to show that there's more than one way to get the job done. Washington Mutual's story was a story of acquisitions. They acquired, they grew, which was phenomenal until it wasn't. The story of Wafd Bank is very different. We try to grow slowly over time, one good customer at a time. Washington Mutual was infamous for originating mortgages and selling them off, putting them into mortgage-backed securities. Wafd Bank for 105 years, one of our primary products is a 30-year fixed-rate consumer mortgage. And do you know how many we've sold? It's a nice round number, 0. Guess what? We could turn around tomorrow and sell mortgages and make more money. It's a known fact. But we don't, because we want to do the right thing. And you can do the right thing and still make a reasonable profit. You don't have to maximize profits. In talking to Carrie Killinger, he said, WAMU was fantastic. They were one of the most admired retail franchises around. They were beloved. Remember the rodeo grandmas? Remember home of the free for the free checking? Friend of the family? The Save at School programs? They did so much good. Carrie, what caused Washington Mutual to fail? It's a long answer. A lot of mistakes were made. But ultimately, they lost their culture. Right? They lost the values. So how do you grow, how do you change, and how do you not just guard against losing your values, but rather invest in those values and grow those values? I believe that we should all be students of leadership. How can we learn from others? How can we learn from others' failures? How can we learn from others' successes? And one of the most important things you can do when leading an organization is to make sure that your values align with the organizational values. There can't be hypocrisy. You can't act one way at work, then another way at home. That is a recipe for failure. You have to make sure that your values are aligned. Be open about it, what your values are. And there won't be perfect alignment. And when there's not perfect alignment, move forward. Servant leadership is so important. In today's day and age, where so many leaders are disconnected from the front line, it's refreshing to have servant leadership. Let me give an example. We were talking about this a little bit before we started. Remember the PPP loan program? This was March of 2020. We were all staring down the pandemic. And the government announced that they wanted to get money into the hands of small businesses to keep those businesses afloat so they could continue to pay their employees. Essentially what they were doing is they were looking for banks to be an ATM to get money out in an expeditious fashion. We had never made an SBA loan in our life, ever. And we said, wait a second, here's an opportunity. We can be part of the solution. We can help people. If you remember back in the time, if you were a small business owner, it was like the Wild West. It was a land grab. There was only so much money and people were frantic. How do I get my share of that money? So we made the decision that we were going to do PPP loans, even though we hadn't done it before. And there were so many folks inside the bank that said, this is ridiculous. We don't know what we're doing. We're taking risk. The SBA is infamous. If you don't have every T crossed and every I dotted, they won't honor their guarantee. We said we're going to persevere, we're going to do it because it's the right thing to do. Every single person at the bank rolled up their sleeves and worked. I personally underwrote loans. Everyone at the bank was involved. It didn't matter what your title was. My chief credit officer was brand new in the role. I said, there is no way we can make the volume of loans with our current approval process. I need you to deputize 200 employees to approve loans. He said, are you nuts? And we did that. We did just that. You need to lead. We ended up during PPP making just shy of 10,000 PPP loans for $1.1 billion, and 48% of those loans were to non-clients of the bank. It was a generational opportunity for us to do good. And we can talk about the financial ramifications, how great this was for clients of the bank, for new clients of the bank. But can I tell you what it was really good for? Our bankers. Because it allowed bankers to feel like they were part of the solution, part of something bigger than themselves. The number of bankers that were working 15, 18, 20 hours a day, working through Easter Sunday, not because we asked them to do it, required them to do it, because they wanted to do it to help others. And you know as Rotarians what that feels like. That payback is better than any payback you can get in a W-2. This might seem somewhat contrarian for a banker to stand before you and say, a bank that's been around for 105 years when there's been so many failures. And by the way, in the US in the last 105 years, we've gone from roughly 30,000 banks in the United States to 4,000 banks. And those banks have either failed or they've been acquired. But we need not to be afraid to fail. It's okay to fail. It's one of the things we should all learn from venture capital. But the key is, if you're going to fail, fail quickly and fail small. Right? You never want to have a 10-year project that fails big. Right? Try things. Go outside your comfort zone. See where you can make a difference. Focus on the long term and not just the short term. In today's day and age of instant gratification, it's so easy to focus on the short term. It's one of the problems with being a public company. You have analysts out there that are constantly, what is your next quarter earnings going to be? To my knowledge, we are the only publicly traded company that I know of that doesn't have an earnings call. It's been publicly traded for 40 years. And why do we not? Because we understand that hubris is part of all of our makeups. And if I'm going to be on an earnings call and tell someone we're going to earn 80 cents next quarter, by dang, we're going to earn 80 cents next quarter. I'll pull the levers to make that happen. But that may or may not be the right long-term decision for the bank. There may be some quarters that instead of earning 80 cents, we should earn 20 cents and make investments for the future. I'm spending way too much time. Be bold. Timing is everything. Let me share with you one other story that I think was defining for who we are, what our culture is. You'll recall in January, I think it was 2019, when the government shut down. And it goes through this every so often in Washington, D.C., that the government gets in a stalemate and they shut down all non-essential services. They don't pay their employees. And then, a period of time later, everything gets resolved. It's all good. But we were in one of these government shutdowns. And I was having dinner with my wife in Issaquah, Washington, at Jack's Bar and Grill, good Mormon family, sitting in the bar waiting for our table, drinking our Diet Pepsis. And we saw this CNBC special on these TSA workers and how hard they had it. Because the TSA were viewed non-essential, so they didn't know if they were going to get paid or when. But yet they needed to do their job so we could all go on functioning and make it through the airports. And there's any number, right, FBI agents, Border Patrol, any number of government workers that were in this predicament. And my wife looked at me. She's like, what are you guys doing about it? like, oh yeah, you know, if they come to us, we'll defer a payment or two on their mortgage. And she looked at me in the eye, kind of the way only your spouse or good friend can look at you, saying you're full of it. I'm like, yeah, you're right, I am. Because the reality is most of those workers don't own their homes. Most of those workers are living paycheck to paycheck, living in apartments. And think about the uncertainty. They don't know when they're going to get paid. They're pretty confident they will, but there's technically no legal obligation. So that was Saturday night. Sunday morning, I called our team together. I said, we're going to launch a new product. And we're going to call this the government, not paycheck, lifeline, government lifeline. And we came together Sunday morning. On Tuesday, we launched the product. And simply put, if you were an impacted government worker, all you had to do was come into a Wafd bank branch, bring your last paycheck, and we would give you a line of credit for up to 6 paychecks. And as you missed your paycheck, we would deposit it into your account. And we did that for no origination fee and no interest. It gives me chills. In a weekend, we had our annual shareholder meeting, and I shared with the shareholders what we were doing. And I had this old curmudgeon shareholder, who I love and respect, by the way, said, Mr. Beardall, let me get this straight. You're a newly minted CEO of the company, and in your infinite wisdom, you've decided to make unsecured loans. Do you ever make unsecured loans? No, sir. We only make secured real estate loans, secured business loans. So that's new. Okay, so you're making unsecured loans, and you're making these loans to people that are not currently technically employed. True. And you're doing no credit check. True. And you're getting no origination fee and no interest. And why the hell do you think this is a good idea? I said, yes, yes, and yes. And it's a good idea because now is an opportunity for us to share some of our abundance with our fellow citizens, community members that need help. We ended up bringing in thousands of new clients. We literally, some of our branches, there were lines around the block. And the crazy thing is, we did that without technology, because if we wanted to implement technology, it would be too fast. So we said, I have only gotten into a fraction of what I wanted to cover. I am passionate about doing good. I am passionate about Wafd Bank. Let me show you. Let me show you this. I'm a big believer that you can do both good and make a reasonable profit. In November of this year, 1 minute, am I okay? Okay, 1 minute. And in November of this year, we'll celebrate 40 years of being a publicly traded company. And I don't share this with you to celebrate how great we are. We're not great, we're lucky. We've got some great people that work for the bank. But our total shareholder return in 40 years is 28,000%. A $10,000 investment in 1982 would be worth $2.8 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of compounding. That is the power of consistency. And we're not out there trying to make a name for ourselves. We're out there trying to make a name for our clients and do what is right. You can do what is right and deliver a reasonable return and be a good corporate citizen. I would open it up for any questions you have, or do we not have time? No time for questions. Thank you very much. Well,
There's time for one question.
I have it.
Okay, it's going to Beth.
First of all, thank you for that incredible presentation. Tell me a little bit more about how you encourage the employees to live the values of the company. You've shared some, but how else do you get them to buy into that culture?
I think the key is empowerment, right? And I think the key is not just let's keep our culture, but let's grow our culture, right? What can we actively do to be stronger than we were historically? And there's challenges, right? Every day's challenge.
How do you run a workforce that 70% of the workforce can be remote, but 30% has to be there? Right? It bifurcates your culture. But you throw out that challenge to people and you say, how can we do it together? And try to find, let's never just be stand in place. Let's be better tomorrow than we are today, and empower your teams to find those solutions together. Would be my answer. Thank you very much. Honored to be here.
All right, who doesn't feel inspired? No one, right? Brent, that was truly fantastic. Thank you for sharing how you and your team are living your culture and that servant leadership mindset. In the recognition of the generosity of your time, Seattle 4 has contributed to Harvest Against Hunger, a nonprofit agency providing healthy meal components to food banks, and 600 servings of healthy produce have been given in your name. Now, our club greatly benefits from the sponsorship of several members, and I'd like to express my gratitude to our gold sponsors, also from Ballard, Liz Powell with Remax on Market, and longtime Rotary supporter Bob Alexander. Now, here to share an update on the upcoming Environmental Summit is past District Governor Kathy Gibson. Kathy.
Some people have asked me, what do past district governors do? And I'm going to tell you right now. You get tapped to do things. Well, and you're going to hear about it. So, environmental topics are routinely dominating our news cycle these days, from extreme weather events to interesting legislation down in California that's going to prevent or ban the sale of new vehicles within a decade that burn fossil fuels, to federal legislation that is going to be promoting conservation and efficient, sustainable energy consumption. So Rotary does not stand on the sidelines and watch and wait and see what's happening. Here in Rotary's Big West, which is the 30 Rotary districts west of the Rocky Mountains, actually including Colorado, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and our West Coast states, climate-caring Rotarians and Rotaractors have been involved in community projects with local and regional partners while broadening their understanding of the many complex environmental issues we face. And since the summer of 2021, about a year, I've been closely involved in planning 3 environmental summits for these 30 districts to address challenges and to showcase some of the solutions in the Big West related to water, soil health, clean energy, and green transportation. And the planning is complete, and the 3 summits are happening this Saturday. And it's not too late to participate. The first one I want to point out is a water summit that's going to focus on both river health and ocean health over the course of the day, with probably the keynote being Paul Watson, the co-founder of Greenpeace, is going to offer an afternoon keynote. There's also a great morning segment if you're interested in what's going on with the Snake River Dam. We've got 2 topics related, 2 great panels addressing the topics of green transportation and clean energy. And those will be tackled over the course of the morning in sequence. Opening that session is Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and then closing out the Green Transportation and Clean Energy Summit is Nuria Fernandez, who's the Federal Transit Administrator at the U.S. Department of Transportation. We've got a 3rd summit focused on the healthy soils and sustainable agriculture. We've got some academic and ag industry experts presenting practical strategies for improved soil health. So please consider devoting some or all of your Saturday, this Saturday, to 1, 2, or even jumping between all 3 of these informative, engaging sessions. The only thing you need to do before Saturday is register, and then you'll receive the link to live stream it on your phone while you're taking a walk or wherever you happen to be. There are pricing and registration details here, and our club newsletter will have details. So thank you, Beth, for the time to promote 3 Rotary environmental summits this Saturday.
Thank you, Kathy, and we appreciate your leadership on that in continuing all of the great work you do for Rotary. Now, next up to share opportunities for Rotarians, to share programs coming up in September is, you guessed it, the Prince of Programs, Ken Grant.
See, while I was down there, I put a little note in the complaints bucket, and apparently you already read it, so that's really on top of it. I like it. All right, next week is all about Washington State. Who does not like Washington State? I'm going to put up 2 bookends. This is pretty funny. We're going to go between politics and the politics of filmmaking. I just thought of that right then, I was like, wow, I got this one. Amy Lillard, who is the head of Washington Filmworks, which is the film commission for the state, she'll be here for the long program. And Shayna Deitch, who is the head of the local Patty Murray office, will be here. We couldn't get Patty Murray. We got Brent, but we couldn't get Patty Murray. I tried. She'll be here to talk about her election and everything that goes on between what she does for our state. So stay tuned. If you're on the Zoom, awesome. If you can come to the room, that's even better. Thank you so much. And thank you for a fantastic presentation.
All right, thanks, Ken. And a reminder of the happy hour event with our newer members, the C4s, on September 22nd. And I did want to point out, we have a couple other programs coming up this month. So Roger Belair, who is talking about pickleball, it's going to be a fantastic program. And then we have Mary Cypress from the Anti-Defamation League addressing the rise of hate and extremism. So great programs coming up over the next month. And as I mentioned, the C4's Happy Hour is on September 22nd. I hope that you will join us there. Okay, now I chose today's walk-up song, Thank You for Being a Friend by Andrew Gold, because it fits the theme of gratitude and leadership for today's meeting. Whether it is leading with gratitude, as Brent shared, or expressing our gratitude to those we appreciate, or simply reminding ourselves of all that is positive in our lives, even when things aren't going well. Now, in my first career job, my boss introduced us to the habit of identifying measurable goals for the year, and he also made us write out all that we had accomplished at the end of each year. Now, frankly, initially, this just felt like a pain in the ass to me and my coworkers. But after a while, the process got easier, and I came to really depend on this process. In fact, it's a habit that I continue to this day. But one year along that path, in the early time of my career, we'd had a particularly difficult year. There were huge disappointments, numerous obstacles to overcome, and several of my initiatives fell short of expectations. Come December, I sat at my desk trying to write out my accomplishments, and I kept thinking, I have none to claim. Nothing good happened this year. But then one small thing came to mind that was good, so I wrote it down. And then I thought of one more, and I wrote that down. And the more I focused on the things that did go right, the more I remembered that actually did go well. Suddenly, I had a page full of good things that I had accomplished in spite of a very difficult year. I still need to have this lesson reinforced occasionally, but every time it happens, I'm reminded of the value that gratitude plays in our life, especially in times of sadness or hardship. Hearing the news of Todd's passing is not easy. So I'll leave you with a quote from the TV sports comedy drama series, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso, after Coach Lasso's team had lost a critical match, this is what he said. This is a sad moment right here for all of us. And there ain't nothing I can say standing in front of you right now that can take that away. But please do me this favor, will you? Lift your heads up and look around this locker room. Yeah? Look at everybody else in here. And I want you to be grateful that you're going through this sad moment with all these other folks. Because I promise you, there is something worse out there than being sad, and that is being alone and being sad. Ain't nobody in this room alone. Let's be sad now. Let's be sad together. Onward, forward. We are adjourned.
All right, everyone, that's the end of today's meeting. We're no longer doing breakout rooms, so this will be closing shortly. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at an in-person meeting again soon. Thank you, Marcia, for your assistance. We really appreciate it. Have a good afternoon, everyone.